Hello, friends. Welcome to yet another episode of Cracking Interviews in the USA. And today we are doing part 6. Today we are going to focus on interview etiquettes, the different rounds in an interview, and the various types of questions that they're going to throw at you. So let's start with interview etiquettes. Are you ready? Friends, first, it's very necessary that you stay in a room that is bright, that is silent, and that really gives you positive vibes. Even though you may be doing a phone interview up front, it's necessary that you stay in a tidy place, a silent place, and a place which really motivates you to bring out your best. Remember that. The second thing is lighting. Lighting is very important. You do not want your face to be shadowed out, or you do not want yourself to be seen in the dark, right? So make sure, adjust your light settings, have a lamp, have the window curtains open, and make sure that the brightness is good. It makes a lasting impression. Now, many people ask me about the background while doing a Zoom interview. There are various options that you could pursue, right? You could either blur your background, which is a professional way to do interviews, or you could just use any wallpaper, a professional wallpaper. And another alternative would be just to, show the background as it is, but make sure that it is clean and tidy. Any way works. It's really up to you, whatever you want. Now, talking about the dress code, right? You're going for an interview, you're selling yourself. Remember our strategies, our winning strategies on part 1 of this series? You are there to sell yourself. So, dress to impress. Wear a coat, wear a tie, put on your best attire. It's necessary to dress well in order to make the right impression. Now, another thing that you need to remember is whenever you're doing virtual interviews, you need to take advantage of the virtual space, right? So there aren't going to be people around you or beside you, so you can always use cues. Have something stuck up in a piece of paper in the form of bullet points, so that whenever you get stuck during the interview process, you can just look at those bullet points and then you can carry forward. So use the virtual space to your advantage. And very important tip, silent your phone when you're giving an interview on Zoom. You do not want any distractions. So these are just some of the common interview etiquettes. Okay, so before we even jump into the questions, one important thing is you need an icebreaker. So find something in common relating to the interviewer and you. It could be anything like the weather. You could be interviewing in different time zones. So just talk about the time zones. Talk about whether it snowed today or whether it rained today. Just try to build a connection with the interviewer. Icebreaker is very important. So say the interviewer has a wallpaper that shows mountains. Tell them how much you love the mountains and the last time you went trekking. Ask them if you know what location that mountain is from. Or if there is a garden, you could just tell them how much you love flowers and the last time you went to a flower show. I'll give you an example. I was interviewing for a position based in Seattle, and Seattle is famous for its grunge bands. And in one of the interviews, the interviewer had pictures of Pearl Jam, the rock band, all over her wall. And then we immediately started talking about Pearl Jam and rock and roll. See, all the nervousness was thrown out of the window. So it's very necessary that you find an element to, just have an informal sort of communication. Guys, people love communicators in this country. In the United States, you have to speak. Don't go all formal on the interview. Just build that connection up front. Now, another thing that you should remember is if you are reading something from a piece of paper or from your computer that has been pre-written, particularly when you're doing a phone call, and in the later stages of an interview, you will not have the word-by-word dictation in front of you, you are going to put yourself in a lot of trouble because you won't have the same level of fluency or the same confidence going from one round of interview to another. So you'll appear as a totally different person. Always remember that. So don't read out word by word when you're doing a phone interview. Just take some cues from a piece of paper. That's my advice to you. Now, let's talk more about the interview process in the United States. How many rounds of interviews do you normally face? So generally speaking, there are 3 to 4 rounds in an interview process. First up, you'll be called up by a recruiter or someone from the human resources department in the organization. Now, what these people want to find out is they want to tick off certain boxes. So the bare minimum criteria for hiring you in that position. So what could be some of those questions? They are basically wanting to know about when you can join, the latest by when you join them, or your salary expectations. They are going to ask that to you upfront. So have that salary figure in mind. We'll do the salary negotiation process in a separate part, but just have that in your mind. Another very quite common question that they throw, particularly at students who are under CPT and OPT, is about your sponsorship status, or whether you are legally authorized to work in the United States. So be prepared for that question as well. Now, many organizations also ask about your attitude towards diversity, equity, and inclusion, because they value and appreciate that at the workplace, and I do too. So you should make up your mind about DEI, because it's very probable that you're going to have that question thrown at you. And other than these common questions that the recruiter wants to tick off, he or she is also going to ask you about your common experience, like in all the other rounds. So, guys, the phone interview normally lasts for 15 minutes. So, they're just wanting to know you as a person and whether to take you to the next round or not. Keep these things in mind and you'll do well. Okay, so once you crack the first round of phone interviews, and believe me, you will. So once you get to the second round, in the second round, it's all about talking with the hiring manager, your supervisor, your boss. So this round is going to be related to questions that are all about the job, all about the work, all about the job description. So it follows a routine start. You will start normally with your elevator pitch, and then they'll come at you with questions like, why do you want to join this company? We have discussed that in our previous videos. You can watch the previous series if you want to know more about that. And then they move into the classic questions. So let us dive deep into the actual questions in an interview. Tell me about the most challenging projects that you have worked on, or how do you collaborate with other teams? What is your leadership style? Tell me about a time when you took initiative. What is the biggest achievement of your career? Now, this is a very critical question. We have discussed this in previous videos as well. You need to really, hit the nail on its head on this particular question. And there can be other questions which are more related to the job, like if you're applying for a position of a finance analyst or finance manager, they're most probably going to ask you about your experience relating to accounting, to taxation, to project finance, to budgeting. Similarly, if you're applying for the role of an IT manager, they're going to ask you about your experience in project lifecycle management, in using various technologies, in working with clients across countries, and working and achieving things within the scope of time, budget, and scope. So go thoroughly through your job description, and the hiring manager is really going to go deep. Again, as I mentioned in my earlier videos, do not put something into your CV that you cannot back up, right? So after you progress to yet another round of interviews, again, you will say you go to the third round. This round is most probably going to be with the departmental heads that your particular department is going to collaborate with. So it is most likely going to be with managers or vice presidents from other departments. So this round is going to be more about knowing your working style, how you fit into the organization, whether you can work in collaboration with other teams or not, how you extract information from other departments, right? How can you demonstrate that you are a team player? So the VPs are going to ask you questions of that sort. So they're not going to go technical, but they're going to ask you all behavioral type of questions. Now, I'm sure like by now you must have gotten a good idea about how the interview process all works. In each and every interview, always thank the interviewer for their time and express your willingness towards the job and and the position that is advertised. So friends, in this episode today, we have talked about interview etiquettes, the different rounds of interviews, and the questions that are going to be thrown at you. So with practice, you will get better and better. Always practice, do role playing, and practice with your friends, and record your videos and see your body language, see the tone of your voice, and look at all other expressions. And then with time, you'll get better and better. And I can't wait to hear about your success stories. In the next part, we'll be doing more rounds of interviews, we'll be diving deeper into the interview process, and I'm here to help you in your journey and make sure that you achieve success. Always believe in the right karma.